My name is Rafe Mendoza. I have driven a trailer long enough to memorize the bends, the grades, the pullouts, the places where the shoulder narrows and the trees lean close. I used to believe that knowing a route meant owning it. That night proved the opposite. It proved a road can own you back. It was late. The kind of late where the sky looks scrubbed clean and the lanes feel like they were painted only for you. The highway ran straight for miles, then dipped into a tunnel of trees. Dry leaves skated in the headlights and made a faint, restless whisper along the edge of the pavement. My logbook time was nearly up. My eyes were still working, but my attention was starting to get expensive. I told myself what I always tell myself when fatigue creeps in: get off the road. Grab a few hours, then finish clean. A simple plan, a professional plan, nothing romantic, nothing reckless. Then I saw 3 women on the shoulder. They were standing together, close enough that their silhouettes touched. They did not wave. They did not step forward. They did not turn away from the glare. They faced my headlights, like they were staring into a fire they had lit themselves. My foot eased off the accelerator, without asking me, as the beams washed over them. Their skin caught the light in a tight sheen, stretched and smooth in a way that made me think of plastic wrapped over bone. Their eyes reflected back something dark, not the normal wet shine of eyes, but a hard glint that made my throat go dry. I needed a reasonable explanation, so my mind tried to give me one. Lost people, drunk people, people waiting for help. My hands betrayed me anyway. Sweat warmed my palms and slicked the steering wheel. I corrected my lane position twice for no reason. When the truck drew even with them, the one in the center lifted her chin a fraction, like she was confirming a detail. I did not hear a word. I did not see a gesture. Still, my body reacted as if I had been addressed. There are moments on the road where you realize you have been looked at in a way that is not curiosity. It is selection. You feel it in the base of your skull, the way animals feel it before they run. I did not stop. I did not honk. I kept rolling until the next town bled into view, a small knot of buildings under tired streetlights. I should have pushed farther to a brighter place, a bigger lot, a busier stop, but my hours were done, and the part of me that believes in rules chose the first option that looked like rest. The Hollow Pines Motor Inn sat at a corner, with a narrow garage, and a sign that looked hand-painted over older paint. The parking lot was cramped. The kind of place where you park a rig and feel like you have pinned yourself in. I backed and carefully shut down, and sat for a few seconds with my hands on my thighs, letting the engine noise fade. Silence rushed in and filled the cab like water. Inside, the lobby smelled like damp carpet and old detergent. The front desk counter was worn smooth where countless hands had leaned. A woman behind the desk looked up slowly. She wore a plain sweater and a name tag that read Nora. Her face had the calm neutrality of someone who has seen every kind of traveler and decided not to care. I asked for a room. She slid me a key and told me the last door down the hall. Her fingers brushed mine as she passed it. They were cold enough to make me notice. In the room, I moved on habit. I locked the door, threw the deadbolt, then dragged the chair from the corner and wedged it under the handle at an angle that would fight any upward lift. I placed my boots by the door in a neat line. I set my wallet and keys on the small table beneath the lamp. I checked the window latch once. I did not check it twice. I wanted to feel normal, not paranoid. The bedspread was rough, the curtains heavy, the air stale. It was not a good room. It was a room that was available, and that was all I needed. The dining area was small, lit too bright, with a few tables and a counter where someone had once served pancakes. Nora was there, wiping a tabletop that was already clean. She looked at me like she was reading a gauge on a machine. "You look run down," she said. Her voice was even, not friendly, not hostile. "I can make you a little herbal tea, helps drivers sleep." I hesitated. I do not take open drinks from strangers as a rule, but fatigue makes you want to accept any offer that feels like care. It also makes you ashamed of your own caution, like refusing is an insult. She handed me a metal thermos. The lid was warm. When I cracked it open, the smell hit first. Wet leaves crushed between fingers, damp soil, something bitter living underneath it all. I took a small sip. The taste was harsh. Not just unpleasant but clinging, like fine powder stuck to my tongue. It did not taste like a pleasant tea. It tasted like something made to do a job. Nora watched me swallow. Her eyes did not move away. I told myself the simplest thing I could. Some people brew strong herbs. Some towns have strange tastes. I thanked her, took the thermos, and went back upstairs. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and took 2 more short swallows. I expected warmth, a loosening in my shoulders. Instead, the tiredness slid down from my skull into my neck like a weight settling into place. My hands warmed, then went strangely calm, as if the nerves had decided to quit early. The bitter taste stayed, not fading the way a bad drink normally fades. I turned off the lamp. The room fell into a dim that still held a thin line of light beneath the curtain. I lay down on my side with the thermos within reach, because part of me still wanted to believe the drink was just a rough kindness. A dragging sound moved in the hallway. Not footsteps with heel and toe, but a slow pull, like someone moving without lifting their feet. Then 3 soft taps landed on the wall, spaced out, not on the door, as if someone was testing the thickness of the room itself. The chair under the handle shivered a hair and settled again. I tried to explain it away. Old building pipes, wind, a guest shuffling. My explanations were thin, but I held them like paper shields. My eyelids grew heavy with a speed that did not match the hour. Just before sleep pressed me flat. Something in the air changed, like the room had inhaled and was holding it, and very close, not through the door, not through the hall, but through the wood itself. I heard a breath that was not mine. A whisper followed, so quiet it felt like it was aimed at the inside of my head. Stay asleep. Icing the last of my will, I opened my eyes and fixed on the door. The chair was there, the bolt was thrown. The handle was still. I told myself one last time that locks mean safety. I let that thought be my anchor as the heaviness rolled over me. The small, ugly climax at the end of that first stretch was not the tapping or the dragging. It was the certainty that the sleep in my body was not normal sleep. It was a command wearing the shape of fatigue. I surrendered to it anyway. I do not remember the moment I crossed fully into unconsciousness. There was no jolt, no slip, no dream image. It was like a hand pressed down until my thoughts flattened and stopped resisting. A low hum swelled in my ears, then receded, like someone tuning a radio between stations. I tried to open my eyes again. My lids obeyed for a second, then sank. My tongue felt thick. The bitter taste sat at the back of my throat like grit that would not wash away. I wanted to roll over and reach for the lamp, but my arms felt distant, as if the bed had swallowed half my body. Another sound moved outside the room, not the hallway shuffle this time. A light brushing along the wall, as though fingertips were sliding across paint. A slow, deliberate contact. It was the kind of sound you hear when someone is looking for a seam. My heart picked up. The hum in my ears grew stronger, filling the space between my breaths. I told myself the same easy lie again. It is the building. It is my imagination. It is a stray cat. It is anything but what my instincts are screaming. The lie almost worked until I woke halfway to a wet exhale near my mouth. My eyes opened the width of a coin. The room was darker than it had been, like the light under the curtain had thinned. The smell was different. It was no longer damp herb. It was rust and soil, like old metal left in rain. 3 figures stood beside the bed. They were too close. They were not silhouettes across a room. They were shapes that took up space within arm's reach. The one nearest my left arm reached down and took my wrist. Its fingers were cold in a way that did not belong to a living hand. The nails were thick and dull, chipped at the edges like they had been filed against stone. It did not squeeze. It found my pulse and pressed with a practiced certainty, like someone checking a watch. The middle one held a cloth bag, dark and heavy as if soaked. It opened the mouth of the bag, and a breath of damp earth rolled out. The smell hit the back of my nose and made my eyes sting. It was the scent of a grave after rain, the scent of something that has been covered and covered again. The tallest leaned in, and for a moment the faint light caught its face, skin stretched tight over sharp bone, cheekbones raised like ridges, teeth too long, separated by dark gaps that looked like missing pieces. Its eyes were deep, blackish, and fixed on me without the smallest blink. My mind tried to label them as human, intruders, addicts, criminals. But the way they moved was wrong. They were quiet without being careful. They were still without being tense. They looked like they were waiting for a signal inside me. The one at my wrist pressed again, measuring. The middle one drew a slow breath, then blew the damp vapor toward my face. The vapor entered my mouth and nose and rushed into my head like fever. My vision narrowed. The bed seemed to tilt. I could feel my body sliding toward surrender. The thing at my wrist tightened its nails into my skin, just enough to produce pain, like it knew pain could keep me awake, and it wanted me awake just long enough for something else. That pain became my doorway. My right hand was free. It felt like it weighed twice as much as usual. I forced it toward the table, inch by inch, as though I was pushing through thick water. My fingertips touched cold metal. The lamp base, solid, heavy, real. I wrapped my hand around it. The tallest leaned nearer. In that instant, I saw a pale groove under its jaw, a mark like rope pressure that had never fully faded, a loop, a lesson. I did not understand it, but it told me this thing had not always been what it was now. I did not have time to think. I only had time to move. I yanked the lamp base up and swung it hard into the middle figure's brow. The impact sounded like metal on bone, a dry crack that vibrated up my arm. The middle one snapped back and struck the bed frame. The cloth bag slipped from its hands and hit the floor with a wet thud. The smell of earth surged, thick and sour. For a moment there was no scream, only a wet clicking in its throat. Its head rolled, and I saw grime under its nails, pores in its skin, little human details that made it worse. Not better. Dreams do not offer that kind of clarity. This was sharp. This was present. The one at my wrist released for a fraction of a second, startled, then clamped down harder. Its nails dug in and left half-moon dents. The tallest did not recoil. It studied me like a worker, watching a tool behave unexpectedly. The middle one lifted its head slowly, eyes wide and glossy. It began to rise. The bag on the floor twitched as if something inside it shifted. A quote formed in my head as clear as a road sign. Some kindness is a hook with steam on it. I sat up hard, planting my feet on the cold tile. The chill ran up my legs and sharpened my mind. The thing by my wrist shifted to keep hold. Its nails scraped my skin in 3 quick lines. Heat flared on my shoulder where another hand raked me. 3 parallel cuts burned open like fresh lashes. I did not scream. I used the pain like fuel. I lunged for the table with my free hand, snatched my keys, and ignored my wallet. I grabbed what could start the truck, what could open doors, what could get me moving. The chair still blocked the handle. I shoved it away. The legs rasped on the floor. I flipped the bolt. The door did not open, not because it was locked, but because something heavy pressed from the other side. A weight leaned into the door like it was waiting for me to loosen the seal. My throat tightened. The tallest stepped closer behind me. The middle one, shaking, reached toward the fallen bag. I drove my shoulder into the door. It gave a few inches, then stopped. Cold air knifed in from the hall, sharp and dry. Nails scraped wood behind me, frantic now, searching for grip. I slammed my shoulder again. The door finally broke free and swung outward enough for me to slip through. I stumbled into the hallway with the keys clenched like a weapon. The overhead light flickered. The corridor seemed longer than it should have. The carpet was threadbare and damp. I ran anyway. Behind me, something moved with a dragging rhythm that turned into a burst, then dragged again. I did not turn my head. I kept my focus on the stairwell. I hit the stairs and took them too fast. Halfway down, pain bit into my calf, a quick snag like a hooked wire. Heat spread as skin opened. My leg tried to buckle. I forced it to keep working. The lobby was empty. The register book lay open. The pen sat uncapped as if someone had just set it down and walked away. The lights above the desk flickered and turned the room yellow. Then gray. Then yellow again. I pushed through the front door and the outside air hit my face, cold enough to sting. My trailer waited in the lot. The buzzing yard light made everything look flat, like a stage set. As I crossed the yard, a service door to the side opened and closed with a soft, dead sound. I did not look. I refused to let curiosity turn my neck. At the cab, the handle felt oddly warm. I shoved the key into the lock on the first try, climbed in, and slammed the door hard enough to make my elbows sting. The engine caught and filled the cab with steady vibration. That vibration felt like protection, like a second heartbeat that belonged to machinery instead of flesh. In the side mirror, the motel entrance framed a rectangle of darkness. 2 shadows slid into the edge of the light and stopped. They did not step fully into brightness. They stayed exactly where the light weakened, staring at the cab. I put the truck in gear and rolled out. As the rig turned, my breath fogged the window. In that fog, 3 narrow scratch marks showed on the inside of the glass. I wiped them quickly. They stayed, as if they were beneath the surface. I did not know if they were new. I did not know if I was imagining the pattern. I only knew my skin crawled as if the cab had been touched from within. I pulled onto the road and did not slow until the motel disappeared behind the trees. A second climax landed there, sharp and simple. The chair and bolt had not kept them out of the room. The chair and bolt had only ensured I could not leave quietly. The thought sat in my chest like ice. And as I drove, I thought I heard something on the passenger side, not a clear voice, but a shape inside the engine noise that almost formed words. When I leaned toward it, it dissolved into vibration, leaving only my own breathing to judge me. By the time I reached the depot, the sky was beginning to thin from black to gray. The gate guard raised his flashlight and recognized my rig. He waved me through, then hesitated when he saw my bare feet and the way I walked like my joints were braced for impact. I parked in my assigned spot, shut down, and the sudden quiet rang in my ears. Without the engine's hum, my body felt too light, as if it might float up and snap. I walked to the office with my keys in my fist. Fluorescent lights bleached the room into flatness. The dispatcher on duty was a thick-shouldered man named Grant. He looked up and frowned. "You're early," he said. "I need to file an incident," I said. My voice came out steady, and that steadiness scared me more than shaking would have. Shock can make you sound calm while you are burning inside. Grant began with the normal questions. Location, time, where I stopped, why I stopped. I chose my words like I was building a case for a judge who hated stories. I said I was fatigued. I said I checked into a motel. I said the clerk offered herbal tea. I said I fell asleep faster than normal and woke to intruders in my room. I said I fought. I said I ran. I held out my forearm and shoulder. Grant leaned forward, eyes narrowing. He did not laugh. He did not ask if I was dreaming. He wrote in the incident log with slow, careful strokes. Then he pushed his chair back. "Go to the clinic," he said. Now, the company clinic was a small room near maintenance. It was meant for straps cutting hands, for twisted ankles, for burns from hot metal. The nurse on duty, Maribel, had calm hands and a face that did not waste expressions. She cleaned the cuts, pressed around them, asked if I felt numbness in my mouth, if I had dizziness, if the taste lingered. I told her my tongue had gone thick and my head had felt stuffed with cotton. I told her the tea had been bitter enough to feel abrasive. She wrote notes without commenting. She checked my pupils with a penlight. The bright beam made me flinch. She handed me an antibiotic ointment and an anti-inflammatory. She wrapped my calf where the cut had opened and taped gauze with practiced efficiency. While she worked, a mechanic came in for a bandage. He paused when he saw my arm. His name was Darius. He had driven before he turned to wrench work, and he carried road stories like scars you do not show unless someone earns them. He looked once at the 3 lines, then looked away as if his eyes had brushed something hot. "Where'd you stop?" he asked. I told him the motel name. Darius's jaw shifted. He didn't smile. "Before that," he said, "did you see anybody on the shoulder, standing close together?" The question hit my chest like a shove. 3 women, I said. Darius nodded slowly. "We got a name for that," he said. "Las Tres del Camino. Drivers joke about it until they don't." Maribel shot him a look that said this was not the place. Darius lifted his hands, palms out. "I'm not trying to scare him," he said. "I'm trying to keep him from going back." I did not repeat the name, saying it once felt like enough, like calling it would make it turn its head. Darius left. Maribel finished wrapping my leg, then told me to go home and rest. She recommended a full test if symptoms continued. Her tone made it clear she believed the tea had been drugged, and she wanted the record to exist in case something happened later. It was full daylight by the time the paperwork was done. Grant arranged a ride. I accepted without pride. I did not want to be alone behind a steering wheel with my body still remembering the weight in that room. At home, I locked the door and checked the deadbolt twice. I closed curtains. I hung my keys on the hook by the entry the way I always did. Because routine is what you use when your mind is trying to crack into panic. In the shower, water ran over my arm and carried away a faint dark residue. Less than at the motel, but enough to make my stomach tighten. It did not look like grease. It looked like soil ground too fine. the kind that stains lines in skin. I brushed my teeth until my gums stung. The bitter grit had weakened, but it still clung in the back of my throat as if the drink had left a footprint instead of a taste. I told myself it would fade in a day. In bed, I left the lamp on. I watched the door. I listened to the normal sounds of my neighborhood, distant traffic, pipes settling, a dog barking far off. I tried to convince my body that the danger was a location I had escaped. Sleep came in thin layers. Each time I drifted, my wrist pulsed with awareness, like the memory of pressure lived beneath the skin. I woke once, near dawn, with my heart racing and my hand wrapped around my own wrist, as if I had been caught doing something wrong. Nothing moved in the room. The lamp still glowed. The chair I had dragged from the kitchen sat near the door, a pathetic duplicate of the one from the motel. I told myself firmly that whatever happened had ended with my truck pulling away. Later that afternoon, I returned to sign the incident report. Grant kept his tone neutral. He asked if I wanted to file a police report. I imagined trying to describe a damp cloth bag that breathed earth, and the way my heartbeat had been checked like a meter. I imagined a tired officer writing it down with polite skepticism. I said no. I signed what the company needed. I asked to be pulled from overnight runs. Grant did not argue. He had seen drivers become cautious for lesser reasons. He approved short routes, daylight routes, work that kept me closer to the depot. His eyes lingered on my arm once, then moved away like he was being respectful. Days passed, and daylight made the world feel like it was trying to apologize. The cuts faded from angry red to a bruised pink, then to pale lines that caught light differently. They did not itch the way normal scratches itch. They ached when rough fabric brushed them, a low reminder buried in skin. My calf healed clean, but a faint ridge remained, a seam that told my body not to forget. The last of the bitter taste finally let go after several mornings. It did not vanish all at once. It weakened until one day I realized I was drinking coffee without tasting grit underneath. That relief should have felt like safety. Instead, it felt like a clock stopping, which only made me wonder what time it had been keeping. Darius caught me near the dispatch window when I came in for route sheets. He spoke quietly, like he didn't want words to travel. "If you ever see them again," he said, "don't slow, don't try to get a better look. And if someone offers you tea in a thermos at a stop you didn't plan, you don't drink it. You don't be polite about it. Polite gets you killed." I asked him if anyone ever got their road back. He stared at my arm, then at my face. "Some roads aren't meant to be traveled twice," he said. "I took a local delivery job with a strict schedule. Morning start, afternoon return. No motel keys, no hallway carpet, no night stretches where the trees swallow light. The pay was lower. My sleep improved. My hands stopped sweating on the wheel. I thought I had reshaped my life into something safer. That thought was my third major climax, and it was a lie. Because safety is not only about where you go, it is also about what followed you home. One night, after a full day of normal routes, I went to bed earlier than usual. The air was still. The house was quiet. I lay on my side and watched the lamplight soften at the edges. My wrist ached faintly, not pain, just awareness, like a bruise that remembers being touched. I drifted towards sleep and felt the old fear try to rise. I pushed it down. I told myself that was the point of the new job, the new schedule, the new routine. Then, from inside the wall beside my bed, came 3 slow strokes. Not knocks, not footsteps, a rasp like a nail dragged across dry wood, measured and careful, as if someone was not trying to make noise but trying to leave marks. My lungs stopped mid-breath. I did not move. A second set of strokes followed. The same pace, the same deliberate pressure. It sounded exactly like someone testing the thickness of a wall, the way Nora's hallway taps had tested the thickness of my motel room. I stared at the plaster and felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs. The sound in the wall paused, like whatever was there was listening. They weren't trying to get in. They were checking if my heartbeat was still there. A quote rose in my mind, cruel and simple. "If something can count you, it can find you." I kept my eyes open and my body still. I refused to give the night the gift it wanted. I refused to let my breathing become slow enough to be measured easily. The wall made one last faint scrape, almost gentle, like a signature being finished. Then the house fell silent again, as if nothing had happened. I did not get up to investigate. I did not turn the lamp brighter. I did not tell myself it was pipes. I did not offer logic as a comfort, because logic had already failed me once at the Hollow Pines Motor Inn. I lay there until morning with my hand over my wrist, feeling my own pulse like a secret I had to protect. And if you drive at night and you see 3 women standing close on the shoulder, staring into your headlights without blinking, here is my only advice. Stripped of pride and stripped of explanation, do not slow down to make sense of it. Do not stop to be decent. Do not accept warmth offered too easily, because the worst part is not the chase, not the cuts, not even the taste of what they put in your mouth. The worst part is realizing you can leave the motel, leave the town, change your job, lock your doors, hang your keys in the same place every day, and still hear the quiet scrape that means you have been remembered. And once you have been remembered, the road you avoid is not the one outside. It is the one that runs along the inside of your walls.